old person and then decaying and like skin melting off and then going back into a baby and then back like and just morphing and like laughing the whole time like ah ha ha.
So you said a galaxy that was fractal into like
into other galaxies. It's made of smaller galaxies instead of stars. It's like you see the Milky Way, and then like you look at like the smaller stars, it's like more Milky Way. It's like into tunnels. So it wasn't flat.
Yeah, because the Milky Way is kind of like a drain, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. You're looking at that, and then like this is deeper than that. But then, like, this is taller, you know what I mean? Or, like, these elephants are actually walking around, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And then there was, like, this overlay of this, like, dude's face, like, morphing from baby into, like, old person and then decaying and dying, and I thought that was me.
You know that Buddhist image, kind of?
Yes,
like, right?
exactly.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's in a spiral, too, or it's more like a road, right? But it's, like, kind of, like, from death to rebirth.
Yes, and then it keeps going, cycling. And then the other thing I saw was, like, a single-cell organism thing. Like amoeba thing, like splitting off, or like it would do that sometimes, but then sometimes it would like morph into like worms or other things, and then turn into mushrooms and turn into trees and other stuff, and then it was like it made everything, it made the whole universe. I was seeing that while I was driving work, and I was like, what the fuck, like tripping balls.
That's the program right there, the variations, the evolution is such a cool spiritual thing too. Like in a, you know, I think. I get the opposition like in time, but it just seems like, you know, like heads and tails, like the same coin type shit, right? Because a spiritual person would never deny the evolution of the soul, right? So it's like maybe you hate evolution, but you can't hate the theory of evolving. Right? So yeah, it's just
even
like
if you hate it, it exists. It doesn't care whether or not.
Yeah, no, facts.
But it doesn't care what you think about it.
Yeah.
The concept of evolution doesn't even have feelings. Think about it. It's like evolution, unless God literally is evolution, isn't conscious. Like unless the process itself of evolving is alive. But
I wish there were more conversation. I mean, it's a hard conversation to have on the essence of God, but they used to have that a lot. You know, like Greek times, and so they say like they were like, you know, the different philosophers. Some said it was like water, some said it was fire, and like someone thought it was change, right? Because then it's it's getting a little closer there, right? Because everything is changing, and then I think they went to like love. Or like truth, right? The truth.
That's like looking at this and saying like, oh yeah, the mushroom is the most of it, so that's God, or that's the main thing. It's like there's eyeballs on there, and they're like almost like they look like fish or something. I can't see what it is. Like there's a devil's face.
Yeah, there's like a dead fish, and then there's like a flower, so kind of like the opposite. And then the genie coming out of a freaking lamp, and then the switchblade. It's interesting the choice too of the genie to switchblade.
Yeah. Like a really like
I know Phish. They've been around for a while, right? Because they dropped like a new song like maybe a year or two ago, and I was like, this is dope. Yeah. And then I was like looking, and it was the same band that I knew one of their songs like was hella old.
I want to play some Phish. Bro. Phish is hella dope.
Phish is bass too. Like I saw some type of tie. I was like either like a tweet from Little B about Phish, or like it was okay, and it's not gonna show up like the first one if it was that.
Yeah, Phish the band. Yeah. I saw them for the first time last year, like around October, and dog, I was tripping balls.
I think it was this.
I'll send you the stuff to listen to, like to get into them.
Okay, I gotta listen to like an album or something, but I think it was this video that just randomly popped. Oh, maybe it is an older video. That's why. It was an older video that they probably uploaded a couple years ago, but it popped up on my feed like a new thing, and I was just like, what?
That's a good song. The studio stuff is cool, but the live stuff is nuts because they jam out for like hours. Like a set will be 7 hours.
This is probably one of those bands too where it's not always the same, right? Like, I mean, most are not exactly the same, but it's like, you know, there's probably less rules, right?
You'll hear the song start, and then like it's almost like they're a jazz band or classical improv. Like they'll go into like a 20-minute, like now the song is something completely else. It keeps evolving, and they've got all this stuff going on. It's just 4 of them, and they all sing, and then like the guitarist has all this crazy loops and effects stuff happening, and the bass player's got stuff too. Like the synth stuff is nuts. Like it's really like trippy because it's rock based, but it's also like classical, and it's like there's no rules either. When they jam out live, I like it. It's good to trip to. It's good to like hang out and smoke to also. They're going on tour. They're not going to be in Nashville, but they're going to be close by, like where my mom stays. She's in Erie, Pennsylvania. That's like 7 hours from where I'm going to be.
Oh yeah, this one's Nashville.
Oh, nice.
2018 then.
They sound so good on acid. It's like it's a thing.
Acid and Phish.
Yeah, you can taste it.
Sounds like fish and chips.
You can taste the jams. This to me is like the evolution of like fusion jazz and like rock and roll. Like it met somewhere, and like it's really cool.
I still need the history on both of those genres. Like fusion jazz, I couldn't even tell you what that is.
These guys are like mostly influenced by Frank Zappa and Grateful Dead, and
so maybe I do, I just don't like.
I forget.
You know what I mean? I know this.
Yeah, you're familiar with where it comes from, probably.
Yeah, or just yeah. Like the labels for jazz just kind of come from the vibe, right? Like the vibe it gets to, because jazz is always kind of like improv, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of just like going wherever, but it's more like the mood that you're getting to with the jazz, right? Like
yeah, it's
like,
kind of like a freeness of it, where it's like.
And maybe also what you're doing, like if you're kind of more picking, right, or you're more like I don't know.
I think it was meant to be
but...
more like more improvised, like expressive, like classical music. It's like a raw form of classical, because before that, there really only was classical music and folk music. And then jazz kind of started what turned into rock and roll, because it was just like, let's take classical and like break barriers and stop following rules and just like make stuff that we like and sounds fun. And then, you know, push the envelopes, push the boundaries. And then rock and roll did that, plus then you have electronics and
When did
guitars.
rock and roll kind of start? Was it like
Like in the
60s or
50s.
50s, right before that on?
Yeah. Like there's
Like
UK
60s is what I've
wave, but
probably
before
seen,
that
but-
you had like Elvis and like Little Richard.
It's always
and
the
all that.
decade before what you kind of know, right? Or like unless you've done your homework, what you think of as it, right? It's always like 10 before. Kind
Yeah. Like if you listen, you can find who everybody was influenced by. Like, you know, Lil B talks about who he's influenced by. They have their influences. I feel like you have to smoke weed to get into this band, because a lot of it is like they're gonna be on this like one chord forever. Just Trey's soloing, they're just jamming. There's no set like when they're gonna go back. They're just gonna do this until they feel like going on.
I'm with it though. It's cool. I mean, I'd be.
It's good background music. It's on par with if you're gonna put some instrumental like classical music or whatever else in the background, or beats or whatever. Like I alternate between this and beats and the other stuff.
Yeah, sometimes this type of music does the opposite for me though. Like I get that it's background, but it also like it makes you want to follow like where they're going. So it's like almost pulls me in more than beats. Like a lot of the time, right? Because it's like like the guitar right here. Like I almost want to like follow this one guitar and see where he's going with it and shit.
Their lyrics are fun too, like really trippy stuff that doesn't make sense on the first time you listen to it. It's more about like what sounds good and like using cool words that you might not hear often. And, like kind of almost has like a Dr. Seussy quality to it, because it's like, I don't know, it's kind of goofy sometimes.
They're kind of making up words a little, or like
not even making up words, but making up like context, like. And then there is stuff they do where they're like making up whole. They have a whole Game Hinge thing. It's like an alternate universe that they have multiple songs about, and like when they sing those songs, they talk about like this land. There's like lizard people and like magic and all this shit. It's like pretty cool. If you follow into like what they're talking about with that, they make up a lot of shit and like characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But most of their songs are just like this, and then they'll eventually get to like a chorus or something that like it's easy enough that you'll remember it, and then the verses don't always make sense. It's just kind of like a cool story that kind of sounds good with the song, and then they jam on it. Sometimes it's like it would only make sense if you made up your own meaning, because it doesn't. The context doesn't make any sense. It's not like a story that makes sense. It's just like cool words. I like it. I fuck with it.
Is it screaming through space on a soul planet?
That's tight.
Screaming through space on a soul planet.
That's what we're doing right now when we talk about the universe. Like
on a soul planet. Are you still smoking it all right now?
Yeah, I've just been dabbing. Like, it sounds funny when I say it, but like I just dab when I have time to. Like I wake up in the morning, low key, like at the last minute most of the time, like just enough time, like I can take a shower, like get ready, and sometimes it's like I'm not gonna make it for the dab today, just gonna wait till lunch. Like, but sometimes I'm like, do I want to take a dab when I go home? Because if I do, I'm extra smashed when I come back. Like I'm gonna be like, where am I? Like, so then sometimes I just wait till I get home, and then I'll hit one, and I'm so good, I'm like, all right, fuck it.
It's cool, minimal.
Like, more minimal, yeah. I haven't been smoking flower like that, really. Like, I buy it once in a while, like an eighth at a time, and then lasts me way too long, and then it gets kind of dry at the end, and I'm not really smoking it because I want to. It's just like, oh, I should use the flower, and then just smoke less dabs. Lately, like, since I've been working 3 jobs, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was when I was up in Tahoe with like those friends and stuff a couple like weeks ago or whatever. He mostly just dabs. That one, my old roommate Griffin. He has a cool little like, what is it? It's kind of like a e-nail type thing, but it's
like a
yeah, I think that might even be what it is.
Volcano-looking thing, right?
Yeah, it's like a little like
ceramic nail
volcano, and then yeah, you like put it in, and then you set the temperature or whatever, and it kind of like it starts heating up, and then it'll vibrate, and then it's ready, and then you kind of hit it. And I was fucking with that too, because I think a lot of my issue with dabs is a lot of times I'm good at first, but as I get super high, I end up accidentally making it too hot and hitting it like when it's still kind of red, or even when it's not red, like I let it cool but not long enough, and I hit it, and I'm like, that's when my lungs start getting fucked up, and I'm like, it's not the dabs itself, it's like the temp, like I'm not getting it at the right temp, like as I get high, it's like it's hard.
I run a timer now. I used to just heat it up and then wait until I thought it felt right. I was just like, I would always say,
like, high, right? Yeah, that's the stoner way, but maybe
yeah,
it's not
but
the
God
best.
said hit it now, go, and like, but that now I always time it.
You got the science down.
Between a certain range, just like between a minute and a minute and a half.
Oh,
if I want it to be hotter, I hit it like a minute 5, and then sometimes I count in my head like, oh, I started my timer like 20-ish seconds late. I'll hit it at a minute. You know what I mean? I just
see, my dumbass will do like 30 seconds in the head high. Like I'm like 30, okay, hit it.
Honestly, sometimes I like hitting it extra hot like that, but it just depends how high I'm trying to get. I feel like you get higher when you hit hot starts extra hot. Yeah, it's a little heavier maybe.
See, I like getting higher, but my lungs are more important, so.
Yeah. Do you feel like you cough up a lot when you dab, or?
It's the same, but I think it's just like, it could also be like, it's irritated from the dabs, and it's the old tar from the weed, because it hasn't been long enough on dabs. But even when, there was a time like, when you gave me that rig, I was only dabbing for like months, and I still was coughing up the shit, so I don't know if I should see someone about that. I don't know, I just feel like, it's weird. It's almost like it's just like caught right here. Like I have like a little catcher that just catches my tar and it just sits there and then I cough it up.
There's this lung detox I heard about called NAC. I forget what it stands for, but it's like it's a mineral it's like a natural mineral that you can take, and it helps your lungs flush like the polyps.
It's edible though, or you have to like inhale it or something?
You get it like a pill capsule, like supplement type of thing. I took it when I was doing jiu-jitsu a little bit.